Hi, so I just finished this month's Fuck the Patriarchy session for Neurokindred, which I'll link below. And while I have some energy left, I also wanted to bring the conversation to TikTok. So, major trigger warning for discussions of childhood sexual assault and experiences of that nature. There are a lot of autistic people interested in unpacking sex, gender, and sexuality. And this is what, my recent series of Fuck the Patriarchy sessions have been about, because we really need to destigmatize this conversation. And I now started to kind of have a more life course approach to it. I was emotional at the end, and so this is some of that happening right here. So excuse me for a minute, because it does bring up a lot of emotions that need to be processed. So basically, the conversation we had today was really about us as young children, and the narratives that our parents kind of constructed in a patriarchal society, regardless of what culture you come from. And I was sharing my sort of Soviet Union experience and so on. But I think a lot of these things are universally experienced, unfortunately. And so I was really talking about autistic children raised as girls. Now, you could be any gender, but still, assumed, assigned, and raised as a girl. And that's who this group is for, as well as for autistic women and non-binary people. And so we were just focusing on that population, but a lot of it applies to all autistic children, regardless of gender. But for autistic girls, there might be several elements that makes them particularly vulnerable to predatory people and predatory older people and predatory, teachers and family members. And that is often being placed in this parentified kind of position where you have to do more complex tasks than your brother, for example, and because of your special interests, like mine were anatomy and physiology when I was 4, and whatever, others thinking you're so mature for your age and really kind of taking advantage of that, and you not recognizing that that's what's happening because you're a kid, but you're an autistic kid, and there's just a way that some of your beautiful autistic characteristics are taken advantage of. And then as you go through your life, you actually feel a lot more childlike, particularly when you start to be aware of your neurodivergence later on in life, and you start to look through your past and try to come up with memories of your childhood or whatever, and you realize that now you feel very stripped down, very much like a baby flamingo, and you're kind of starting life over in many ways, and you were treated like you were so mature when you should not have been treated that way. And so there are a lot of memories that show up in those retroactive processes of looking over our lives, where you realize that was really deeply questionable, and there was a lot of things you didn't understand that many of us still don't understand, about how intensely should you feel about your best friend and your teachers, and especially when you don't recognize hierarchies, as many autistic people do not, and autistic children certainly, and you get kind of hyper focused on people and in relationships and friendships, and then all sorts of things can happen to you, and that because a lot of other people then gaslight you or dismiss you or say you're lying, and they make you feel ashamed, you start to mask a lot of the your traits because of things that are happening to you, and you just kind of try to make sense of relating to other people sexually or not, and it just ends up being confusing and then also traumatic in terms of remembering it. And unfortunately, a lot of autistic girls, like all girls, come into gender and sexuality coercively and violently and at very young ages. And that makes it very difficult to approach one's sexual development. And so a lot of autistic people are also very kind of cerebral and dissociated from their bodies, or have learned to dissociate, and actually in response to lots of trauma, people, there's overlap between autistic people and systems whose brains did their best to make sense of what's happening and built complex systems, and it's always kind of this wonderfully tragic ability of our autistic brains too to, you know, protect us. That's fascinating to me. But in any case, I just want you to think back to your childhood and know that before there was trauma, there was this incredible autistic individual, and then they simply got modified through trauma, like many people do, but we're also really vulnerable to it in the first place because of this, of these incredible characteristics that I think we should celebrate. And so it's bittersweet. So our reflection on our childhood and how our sexuality came to be is bittersweet. And I really want to hold space for like both the negative aspect of it all and the positive aspect of it all, because the same aspects of your autistic you will now help you heal and break cycles and reparent yourself and parent your neurodivergent children differently, and destigmatize these conversations in ways that helps other people. And it's as if we're unearthing that autistic child and their hyper focus and their fierce independence and their, you know, compassion, as we heal and unmask and lean into our autistic traits, with a lot less shame, right? That's just kind of where I want to lead this conversation. All right, so if you want to talk about anything I just mentioned, I could flesh these things out more. And if you want to work with me as an autistic life coach and have, you know, a real conversation about how your life went and, you know, to kind of get back to your body, get back to your agency, get back to, you know, celebrating your autistic self now as an adult, then my consults are free and in my bio, and you could DM as well. I don't DM first. Have a good day.